U.S. President Donald Trump is embarking on the first foreign trip of his second administration to the Middle East this week. He's set to meet with leaders in Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates, but is notably skipping over Israel. This amid recent media reports and speculations of tensions between Washington and Jerusalem. As such, U.S. Ambassador to Israel Mike Huckabee spent the weekend setting the record straight, defending Trump's ties with Israel and addressing the media reports on Middle East policy. More on this from ILTV's Mayan Hoffman.
U.S. Ambassador to Israel Mike Huckabee gave a series of interviews to Israeli media over the weekend, rejecting claims of a strained Trump-Netanyahu relationship and pushing back on recent reports about Trump's Middle East policies. Speaking to Channel 12, Huckabee dismissed concerns about Trump skipping Israel on his upcoming regional trip, saying it was focused on economic issues and not a snub. "Donald Trump loves you," the ambassador said. "He's got your back." He reiterated to Channel 13 that Trump and Netanyahu have an outstanding relationship and predicted the president would visit Israel within the year. In separate interviews, Huckabee defended the U.S. stance on Iran and the controversial ceasefire deal with Yemen's Houthi rebels. He told Khan and Channel 12 that the U.S. wouldn't intervene unless Americans were harmed, despite Houthi threats to Israel. Asked about Netanyahu being blindsided by the deal, Huckabee said he wasn't sure when the prime minister was informed. Huckabee also downplayed a Jerusalem Post headline claiming Trump would soon recognize a Palestinian state without Hamas. Calling the headline nonsense, the ambassador joked on X that his grandson Teddy was a more reliable source. Separately, Huckabee clarified Israel's role in providing humanitarian aid to Gaza as part of a new U.S. plan during a press gaggle on Friday.
I want to say the Israelis are going to be involved in providing necessary military security because it is a war zone. But they will not be involved in the distribution of the food or even in the bringing of the food into Gaza. Their role will remain on the perimeter.
Israel halted most aid to Gaza just before it resumed its ground offensive in the coastal enclave in March.
And a fourth round of indirect high-level nuclear talks between the United States and the Islamic Republic of Iran kicked off today in Oman, with the main points of disagreement still evident between the sides, and with Israel watching the developments closely. The details in the following report.
The contentious issue of uranium enrichment took center stage at the fourth round of indirect talks between the Islamic Republic of Iran and the United States on Sunday in Muscat, Oman. Iran is seeking sanctions relief as well as the right to what it calls a peaceful nuclear program, while the United States demands that Iran completely dismantle its uranium enrichment capabilities. Ahead of the negotiations, Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi said he hoped to reach a decisive point in the nuclear talks and reiterated that Iran's right to uranium enrichment is non-negotiable. In contrast, U.S. Special Envoy to the Middle East Steve Witkoff said that uranium enrichment was a red line for the United States. Speaking to U.S. media outlet Breitbart over the weekend, he said all the Islamic Republic's uranium enrichment facilities would have to be dismantled. Witkoff said an enrichment program can never exist in the state of Iran ever again. That's our red line. No enrichment. That means dismantlement, it means no weaponization, and it means that Natanz, Fordow, and Isfahan, those are their three enrichment facilities, have to be dismantled. He added that he believes it would be unwise for the Iranians to test President Trump and said they have no choice but to accept the U.S. terms for a deal. Witkoff also warned that if the talks Sunday were not productive, then they won't continue and the United States will have to take a different route.
And joining us now to discuss the recent developments between the United States and Israel is Ari Harrow, former Chief of Staff to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Ari, thanks for joining us today.
Good to see you, Lida.
So there's still a lot of concern in Israel over President Trump's recent actions and his intentions during this upcoming Middle East trip. Should Israel still be concerned?
I think that there's three things that we have to keep in mind. Number one is that President Trump has a long history of being a close ally and a supporter of the state of Israel. That hasn't changed, and I don't think that is going to change. Number two is that there is, I guess, two camps within the Trump administration as far as foreign policy is concerned. And we're hearing different voices from different people, but ultimately it is the president that's going to dictate the path that they take. Third is that Trump is definitely unpredictable when it comes to policy in general. But one thing that is very clear, and you see it in his dealings, not only in our region, but throughout the world, is that he is a deal maker. He makes that very clear. And I think that the approach that we're seeing to some of the challenges that we face in the region are very calculated and are part of a strategy that he has implemented throughout his professional life.
Now, we heard a lot of reassurances from Ambassador Huckabe over the weekend. He dismissed much of the noise and the rumors, let's say, that have been circulating. So what do you make of these? I mean, even the fact that he needed to do these round of interviews to ease tensions.
I think that there was maybe an unrealistic expectation by some in the Israeli political establishment and amongst the Israeli constituency that President Trump and his administration would be lock in step with Israel on every matter and on every statement. Unfortunately, or fortunately, that is not the case. And like I said, I mean, it was really an unrealistic expectation. I think that the United States does have its own interest, but so does Israel. And as long as we can convey that to each other, not over television channels and the news, the news tickers, but rather in person and behind closed doors, I think that both countries will be the better.
And the fourth round of nuclear talks taking place today in Oman. The issue of uranium enrichment is taking center stage, with the U.S. saying Iran is in no position to say no to any deal. How likely is it that we will see real progress, and how much longer will the Trump administration let these talks drag out before it says enough is enough?
Well, I think that the Iran negotiation is actually a great example of your previous question as to where is the Trump administration heading. If you recall, some of the earlier comments that Envoy Witkoff made and others in the administration had many people in Israel shaking their head and wondering where exactly this is going. But yet, as the negotiations have progressed, the supposed American stance has hardened. And obviously, from Israel's perspective, that's a very welcome development. I think that it's clear to the United States, it's clear to Iran that Israel cannot allow Iran to reach nuclear capability. They are extremely close, and a decision is going to have to be made in the very near future. Whether we're talking about weeks or maybe a few months, but not much longer than that before alternative planning and alternative action is going to have to take place.
And now let's talk about President Trump's trip to the region. What's on the agenda, and why is Israel not a stop on this trip?
I think that it's very clear from most of what President Trump has done since entering office is really focused on the economy. He's spoken extensively about tariffs, and even in Prime Minister Netanyahu's last visit to the White House, he's been dealing with Canada, Mexico, Panama. He just signed an agreement with the UK a couple days ago. I think that the focus here is very clear, and it's all about, to use his mantra, America first, and how he puts the American economy back on the fast track. There's no question that behind closed doors, there will be other issues dealt with. He's going to touch on regional security issues. He's going to touch on the Houthis and the war in Gaza and elsewhere. But ultimately, I think that the focal point of his visit is the economy, is the American economy. And once again, I think that us in Israel, we can recognize that not everything always revolves around, our little issue at home.
Absolutely. Ari Harrow, thank you so much for your insights today.
Thank you.
And the IDF and the Mossad have recovered the body of missing IDF soldier Sergeant Major Tzvi Feldman in Syria after 43 years. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu announced the recovery of the soldier this morning. Feldman fell in June 1982 in the First Lebanon War during the Battle of Sultan Yaakov and has been missing for decades. Sadly, his parents passed away, never giving up hope that their son would one day return. Netanyahu said that since the end of the First Lebanon War, Israel has not stopped in its efforts to try and locate and recover the bodies of the fallen soldiers. He added that Israel will continue its efforts to return the body of Sergeant Major Yehuda Katz, who is still missing.
In a rapidly changing Middle East, Israel must stay ahead of emerging threats. What cutting-edge technologies will keep Israel safe? Brigadier General Professor Jacob Nagel reveals the bold strategies and breakthrough defense tech he recently recommended to Prime Minister Netanyahu in an exclusive security briefing from the American Technion Society.
Iran is weaker than ever, and someone has to take the opportunity doing something about it.
Visit ats.org/Nagel to watch the full briefing now.
Israel Bonds, the heartbeat of solidarity, the powerhouse of support. When the Israeli-Hamas war hit, Israel Bonds stood tall, proving we're more than just an investment, we're a lifeline. Israel Bonds pledges to ensure Israel thrives and flourishes. Investing in Israel Bonds isn't just a financial move, it's a declaration for resilience, strength, and a better future for Israel. Join us and let solidarity echo through generations.
In Gaza, 4 IDF soldiers were killed in weekend fighting as the IDF continue to step up operations from the air and on the ground. Some 60 terrorist targets were hit by aerial strikes, and Hamas is reportedly near defeat in Rafah. More on this from ILTV's Steve Leibovitz.
Day 583 of the war in Gaza. Over the weekend, the IDF continued its limited offensive, hitting some 60 terror targets across Gaza, killing and wounding more than 20 gunmen. The army said that the terrorists are now close to defeat in Rafah, with resistance limited to the Janina neighborhood. In the past days, the soldiers destroyed terror infrastructure, located dozens of tunnel shafts while eliminating operatives. The army says that the Rafah brigade has been largely neutralized. The underground facility was located 25 meters underground and stretched nearly 1 kilometer and was used as an operational center by senior Hamas terrorists. Troops from the 252nd Division have been operating in the Morag corridor and killed several gunmen who approached forces. Hamas infrastructure was destroyed both above and below ground. 4 soldiers have been killed and 6 wounded in the fighting in Janina. 2 soldiers were killed when an RPG was fired at a building where they were stationed, partially collapsing the building on them. Later, 2 soldiers were killed when their armored personnel carrier was hit by an explosive device. Hostage for ceasefire talks remain stalled. Sources close to Hamas say that a delegation from the terror group held 2 meetings with Egyptian and Qatari mediators in Doha, but they failed to produce a breakthrough in the search for a Gaza truce and release of Israeli hostages. Meanwhile, Hamas has released another hostage propaganda video, this one of hostages Elkanah Bochbut and Yosef Chaim Ochana. Both were kidnapped from the Nova Music Festival, and this was their latest signs of life from captivity. Just ahead of their abduction, both men helped the wounded during the Hamas invasion. Amid the fighting and ceasefire talks, efforts by Israel and the U.S. are underway to resume aid deliveries to Gaza while preventing the humanitarian assistance from being hoarded by Hamas. Amid the trials of creating the safe humanitarian aid route, the UAE announced its rejection of an Israeli request to fund the plan. Emirati officials said its stance could change if the initiative is amended to meet what it called dire needs. Israel and the U.S. are hoping that UAE support would help convince other countries and international organizations to follow. Prime Minister Netanyahu reiterated Israel's 2 key objectives in the war: first, to defeat Hamas, and second, and simultaneously, to release our hostages. The remark came as the IDF prepares to launch Operation Gideon's Chariots after the Trump trip to the Middle East.
And after its agreement for a ceasefire with the United States, as promised, the Houthi rebels in Yemen continue firing rockets targeting Israel. IDF Arrow Air Defense shot down the Houthi missile on Friday afternoon that triggered sirens across central Israel. There were no damages or injuries reported. This was the 3rd attack directed at Israel since the Air Force launched airstrikes against Houthi targets, including Sana'a International Airport last week. Defense Minister Katz warned that Israel will respond to the latest Houthis attack and would respond strongly anywhere else needed. The missile was reportedly intercepted after the American THAAD system also engaged the missile but missed for the 2nd time this week. A week ago, a THAAD missed a Houthi missile and an Arrow interceptor malfunctioned, allowing the projectile to hit the grounds of Ben Gurion Airport, prompting Israel to launch 2 attacks on the Iran-backed group in Yemen. Well, as mentioned, the IDF has been working day and night to ensure terrorism is not allowed to thrive in Judea and Samaria. And this week, ILTV's Emily Schrader joined the IDF's Chativat Yehuda, the 516th Brigade, on an overnight arrest and weapons seizure in the Hebron Hills. Let's take a look at how the troops are battling terror on the ground.
Well, it's after midnight in Israel, and we're heading out with Chativat Yehuda for a special operation to locate and confiscate weapons in Judea and Samaria. Now, tonight's search focuses on Yatta, which is a village in the Hebron Hills. Throughout the Gaza war, the IDF has been battling, of course, multiple fronts from Lebanon to Yemen to Iran and, of course, the Gaza Strip. But what has not been reported on nearly as much is the IDF's efforts in Judea and Samaria in order to prevent the opening of yet another front to this gruesome war. Behind me on the hill, just a few minutes ago, there were flares. There was a terrorist who ran. So we'll be following the Chativat Yehuda throughout the night in order to see exactly how they carry out such operations, which is something that they're doing literally every single night, I'm told. In addition to that, in this area here in Hebron, which accounts for 60% of the Palestinian economy, there are approximately 80% of the public here who are supporting the residents here who actually support the terrorist organization Hamas. So it's a major stronghold for radicalism here in the West Bank. Last April, the New York Times reported that the Islamic Republic of Iran had been attempting to flood Judea and Samaria with illegal weapons in order to destabilize Israel, of course, using a complex network of criminal organizations, intelligence agents, and yes, terror groups. These weapons often travel through smuggling routes from Iran to Syria, Lebanon, Iraq, or Jordan. But with the IDF's success in cutting off these smuggling routes, in particular in Syria and Lebanon, the Islamic Republic has enhanced its efforts to use Jordan, prompting the need for operations like this one tonight.
Right now, we're looking for any signs of armaments, maybe weapons that could be used against the Israeli citizens living in this area, maybe even inside of Israel. This is a very important job. We're doing it for 44 days right now. You can't underestimate this. I mean, this could be something that is a felony that could escalate really quickly into a terrorist attack in Tel Aviv, and it is our responsibility to stop it here.
And only a few minutes later, after a search, the troops on the ground have found the suspect who fled, still conducting a search on the house to search for any weapons or stashes of cash that may be here inside the home. Thus far, the operations have been very successful in preventing a massive escalation from Judea and Samaria. Among the tasks the soldiers on the ground are carrying out in nightly raids just like this are, of course, dismantling explosives, making arrests of wanted individuals, one of the activities we'll be looking for tonight, and, of course, the seizure of illegal weapons, which are used to carry out terror attacks against Israeli civilians. In April, the IDF carried out daily operations throughout the West Bank, arresting 290 individuals, confiscating weapons, and seizing hundreds of thousands of shekels in terror funding. Well, the majority of the IDF's counter-terror operation Iron Wall is focused on the cities of Jenin and Tulkarem. The Hebron area is also known as a hub for terror groups such as Hamas, Islamic Jihad, and the PFLP. Of course, the presence of these terror groups makes the IDF's combat vigilance in the area all the more important.
Thank you to Emily Schrader for that report. And just before we continue, we've got exciting news for our ILTV viewers in the New York area. ILTV, in partnership with Arutz Sheva and Besheva, is proud to take part in the Jerusalem Conference in New York, an inspiring evening of thought leadership, faith, and pro-Israel advocacy. The event will take place at the Fifth Avenue Synagogue, and we've got a special offer just for you. 100 tickets at 50% off, exclusively for ILTV viewers. Scan the QR code on your screen to learn more and grab your spot now. We'll see you there. And now, do you want to transform your love for Israel into meaningful action? Well, ILTV is also proud to partner with Blessed by Israel, a company that brings you extraordinary products handcrafted by the brave pioneers of Judea and Samaria. Every purchase supports their mission and strengthens Israel's heartland. Let's take a closer look at Blessed by Israel and how you can make a difference today.
As the world moves to boycott Israel, the people working to restore life to the biblical heartland face daily challenges. Blessed by Israel offers a simple way to support these efforts by bringing unique and beautiful products from Judea and Samaria directly to you. From the hilltops of God's land to your home, you can find exceptional items crafted by families and small businesses in the heart of Israel. With U.S.-based warehouses, Blessed by Israel ensures affordable prices and fast delivery. Choose from a range of products, including skincare, artisan flowers and foods, olive oil, tahini, honey, and much more. There are many great options for giving wonderful gifts to your loved ones. Visit blessedbyisrael.com to explore these products and discover the inspiring stories behind them. Scan the QR code on your screen to take part in fulfilling God's prophecies.
The Israeli delegation for this year's Eurovision Song Contest have landed in the host city of Basel in Switzerland. Israel's representative for Eurovision this year is Yuval Rafael, a Nova Music Festival survivor and winner of Israel's Rising Star. ILTV's Devo Klein breaks down Israel's preparations for the event.
24-year-old Yuval Rafael and her team have touched down in Basel for rehearsals for the 2025 Eurovision Song Competition. Rafael secured her role as the Israeli representative after she won Israel's Rising Star singing competition. During the filming of the show, Rafael revealed her harrowing story of how she survived the Nova Music Festival massacre, emerging from a bomb shelter where she hid for 8 hours and where 40 other souls lost their lives. Rafael's story of bravery will be represented in Israel's song titled New Day Will Rise, written by Keren Peles. With her vibrant and resilient character, Rafael is ranked high among Eurovision bookmakers as they predict she could place 5th out of 37 competitors. However, similarly to last year's Eurovision, Israel's participation does not come without controversy. 70 former Eurovision participants penned an open letter demanding Israel's withdrawal from the competition, with almost half of the signatures belonging to artists from Iceland alone. In addition, Israel's National Security Council warned Israelis planning on traveling to Basel this year to conceal Jewish and Israeli symbols and identifiers, citing security concerns for Eurovision goers. Despite the NSC directives and the pressure from competing countries, Rafael and her team from Cannes, who broadcast the event, are attending with their heads held high, and the first images of rehearsals have left fans stunned at the performance. Now, what should you be looking out for? The Israeli team is spending the next few days rehearsing on stage before competing in the second semifinal on May 15th. If Rafael succeeds, she will be in the final on May 17th. Stay tuned for 2025's Eurovision developments, and in the meantime, good luck to Yuval Rafael.
Good luck to Yuval Rafael. And now let's take a look at the weather forecast. Partly cloudy skies are expected around most of the country tonight, with temperatures reaching lows of 24 degrees Celsius or 75 degrees Fahrenheit. Then tomorrow we'll see clear skies alongside hot temperatures with highs of 27 degrees Celsius or 81 degrees Fahrenheit. And that's a wrap for today's news. For the latest updates from Israel on all your devices, be sure to follow our ILTV channel, subscribe to our newsletter, and explore our website, ILTV.tv. Stay informed with the latest news straight from the heart of Israel. I'm Ladar Gravelazi. Be well, stay safe, and thank you so much for watching.